What's up, YouTube's calling back. Hey man, I just got done watching Creed 3. Had to let my thoughts just like Black Panther. Before I get into my thoughts, the reason I make these videos, I'm not no film reviewer or nothing. I don't even really like to do stuff like that. But Black Panther and the Creed franchise specifically are two of the biggest reasons why I became a filmmaker myself in current times, in contemporary film, if you'd call it that. The first Black Panther coming out in 2018, Creed 2 coming out in 2018 as well. Creed 2 was the first short film that I ever made. The Creed 2 remake, the Res edition. I made a remake of that desert training montage, and which got reacted by Stephen Caple Jr. and Michael B. Jordan saw it. Florian Munteanu saw it. So the Creed franchise is a special place in my heart, and it's really what got my foot in the door in terms of filmmaking. And so when it comes to Creed 3, I knew I was going to be hyped for it, just like Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Black Panther 1 is what gave me the inspiration to become a filmmaker, and Creed 2 is what kind of taught me how to be a filmmaker. So Creed 3 is something that I was really excited about, especially knowing the premise. The premise felt really grounded with this new character, Damian Anderson, getting out of jail, and if you come from that lifestyle, growing up around people in and out of jail and just those bitter men who are angry at the world, then this premise will really attract you, just like it attracted me. Creed 3, actually directed by Michael B. Jordan, which everyone's been hearing it nonstop, but people, I don't think a lot of people know what that means. Directed by someone, being a director is kind of a hard role to describe, but hopefully I could show you a little bit from my perspective, at least, while I dive into this review, I guess, as you call it. The first thing I'll say is that I think Michael B. Jordan did a great job with his first time directing. He had a strong vision, especially when it came to the fights, and for the most part, it worked really well during those moments. The usage of IMAX cameras, which people, I don't think a lot of people understand what that means. I don't even understand what it fully means. But when those fights come in and the aspect ratio goes from a 2:3:9 to a 1:9, and it really opens up the frame, it looked really great. And I forgot to mention this, but I've already seen Creed 3 twice. I saw it on Wednesday, early access, and then I saw it on Saturday. In a real IMAX theater, like those huge IMAX screens. So I got to really witness what that IMAX camera usage felt like, and it worked really well. Those fight scenes, when it went from a 2:3:9 open up to a 1:9, looked really, really good, and it was really awesome to witness. That was a great choice. I guess the first part, which most people are interested in, are the fights, and as I've already mentioned, the IMAX usage was great. Coming from the second movie, which is it's still my favorite one in the franchise. Spoiler alert, Creed 2, still my favorite one. I don't think the punches were felt as much compared to the second movie. The second movie, when you're watching Drago versus Creed and you're just feeling those punches hit, and maybe an OTS over the shoulder and Drago throws a straight right, punching Donnie in the face and his head goes flying back into the corner. Like moments like that, I didn't really feel at times. I didn't feel like the punches were as heavy, and they didn't feel as impactful. There definitely were moments like that. Like, for example, the first fight in the movie, which is the Ricky Conlon versus Adonis Creed fight, where he has that cool anime moment where it zooms into his eyes, and then he dodges, doom, right in the gut, dodges, doom, left in the gut, and then right in the face, and knocks him out. Like, moments like that, I was like, ooh, that looked nice. And you're always going to have those moments in boxing movies where there's the big hits that you want an audience to feel, but I'm just talking overall. During the movie, during the fights, the punches weren't felt as much. If you go back and watch Creed 2, you watch an entire boxing match of Drago fighting, and you're gonna feel every single punch, not just the ones that they specify and give a specific shot for. That's what I mean by that. This is gonna be a long video. Bear with me. If you're interested in my thoughts, if you like Creed, I think you'll enjoy this video. Another thing that I really like that Michael B. Jordan did was he really got into the mind of the fighters. At times, he really just let the camera sit with the fighter, and you, as an audience member, you can immediately feel what that fighter was thinking, and then cut into what he was looking at. He was maybe looking at an open shot in the liver, and he's like, okay, I got him. And then he's sitting in this corner, and the camera just sits just for a couple more seconds before he gets in. I really like how Michael B. Jordan really allowed the audience to get into the mind of fighters, which is something I don't think a lot of boxing movies do. The other thing I was going to mention that I think kind of fell flat was the intensity of a win. You know, the Rocky franchise and now the Creed franchise. And again, going back to Creed 2, you know, this being my favorite one. When Creed wins, even the first fight against Wheeler, or even him against Drago in the last one, of course, but when Creed wins and with the fusion of the music, man, it feels so hype, and you can just feel it, and you can feel the intensity. Whereas compared to Creed 3, when Creed won a fight, I just didn't feel anything. Just the mixing and editing of when to bring in the music, when to bring in the hype, you know, when to cut here, when to cut there. The intensity of a win wasn't captured as well, and I didn't feel hype when a fight was won, or I didn't feel devastated when a fight lost. For example, when Dame fought Felix, the Mexican fighter, when Dame beat him down and was, you know, being dirty and dislocating his shoulder, I didn't feel like, oh God, this is dangerous. For example, going back to Creed 2, when Drago was bodying Creed in the first fight and just working him, and then you bring in the music of the dum 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 dum, and then Creed gets out of the ring and it's just dum 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 dum, and the music's just brewing, and you're like, oh God, I'm scared for Creed. Like, I feel genuinely terrified. And then Drago just goes in, like, that's making you feel devastated. That's making you feel the intensity of the moment. And moments like that, I didn't really feel in Creed 3. Some of the fights at times felt a little plot-based. In specific, the Damian Anderson versus Felix fight, which is the first fight that Dame fights. You know, he was like playing dirty, trying to dislocate his shoulder, and the reporter's like, "Oh my God, this is looking dangerous. We don't know what's going on. I think that was a forced punch." And as an audience member, I was like, it doesn't feel as dangerous as you're saying it is. They're trying to tell me it's dangerous, but you need to show me it's dangerous. Like I'm saying, go back to the Creed 2, watch the first Drago Creed fight, and you'll know what I mean by dangerous. You'll know what I mean by danger in a ring. But another thing I love in the fights is the trash talk. I love me some good trash talk. Ask anyone that knows me and they'll know that I love some good trash talk. And I just love how we could hear Dame trash talking Creed like you all alone now, little Donnie, or all right Creed, I'll see you in a minute. And then Creed's like I'll be right back. And while they're walking to the corner, like, I just love little moments like that. Or Dame just sizing him up in the ring, like, you soft. Talking to Felix, like, I love moments like that. And like I say, the Michael B. Jordan's voice really shines as a director in these fight scenes, which is to be expected because, I mean, it's a boxing movie, and so as a director, these are the moments you're usually most excited for. This is from me coming from this whole review is me coming from experience as being an actor director, where I've acted and I directed a feature film, and moments like that where I walk on set and I know exactly how I want to film a fight scene. I know exactly how I want to choreograph a gunfight. But then when it comes to the emotional moments, that was something I struggled with as a first time actor director, and something that I feel like at times fell flat. It's expected for the boxing scenes to have his voice so strong, because that's the most anticipated part for him. He's like, oh man, I know exactly how I want these fight scenes to feel. I think that's all I pretty much have to say about the fights. But now going into the premise and, you know, the story and the characters and the plot and stuff like that. First off, Jonathan Majors killed it. I actually like some of his takes that were used in the trailer more than what were used in the final cut, which is kind of weird, which kind of sucked. There were just certain lines where, you know, he's like, kept myself in shape. I still got some gas in the tank. They used different takes in the final cut, and I was like, I feel like the trailer cut was better. But that's just me being a director nitpicking, you know, take usage and stuff like that. Right side. I don't think they utilized him well enough, or his story as effectively as I wanted him. You know, the pacing between Adonis and Dame felt a bit iffy. I think we needed a bit more intimacy with Dame, especially in the first act. You know, the first act is so important, because if you could set up the first act well, then the second act comes in, you're invested. The third act comes in, you're even more invested. And so if the first act falls a little flat in establishing characters and establishing world, establishing purpose, then the rest of the movie is going to follow through with that. It's going to fall a little flat. And I don't think we had enough intimacy with Dame. I think we were treating him a bit too much like a plot device for Adonis and his story, when we really needed to be brought into Dame's own story. And I really think Dame needed an opening scene. He didn't really have an opening scene. I mean, the adult Dame, the kid Dame, that was the opening scene of the movie of them, of a kid Adonis and kid Dame as friends. But when Dame's finally out of jail, I think we needed just like a 3-minute scene with Dame just in the world now. Just something to establish him a bit more, instead of just him showing up at Adonis's gym. I think we needed just a little more intimacy with them, like I said. Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors had great chemistry all the time. I loved when they were on screen together. I think it just worked really well. They worked really well together. Two of my most favorite scenes in the movie are the beach scene, when Dame finally wins the championship and he's out partying at the beach, and Adonis realizes that he kind of sabotaged the fight, and Creed goes and approaches Dame on the beach, and they get into an argument, and they finally become enemies. And Dame's like, "Bye, baby Creed," or he punches him in the face, and he's like, "Pick yourself up for once. See how it feels. Like, I put up money for you. I did this and that." And Dame's like, "All right, whoa, now you put the gloves on my hands." And they're just bickering. I really love that scene. And what my other favorite scene is the Stephen A. Smith scene, when Adonis Creed goes on ESPN to challenge Dame, and Damian Anderson calls on the phone, and he's like, "You want some tissue, Creed? Come out there and give you a hug." And then Creed's like, "Dame, not like this. This isn't the way to handle this." And then Dame's like, "Oh, well, that's too bad. This is live, so this is how we're handling it now." And just moments like that, I just loved it. I loved it. My true favorite scenes, when they're on screen together, just being enemies, so good. We needed to be let into his world a bit more as an audience member. His anger was usually a missed opportunity. For example, he was sparring at Adonis's gym with Felix, the world heavyweight champ, and he's playing dirty. He got in a fight with him, got in trouble. Adonis told him, go take a break, go get some air. And then we cut to him going to his dirty old apartment, and he gets angry and he smashes all his stuff on the wall, and he starts doing push-ups and shadow boxing. And that's the stuff I want, but I don't think it was captured well enough, shot well enough. I don't think we got enough of it. And moments like that, I was just always wanting a little bit more. Also, the last thing I'll say about Dame is that I really think Dame needed a team built around him, because in the movie, his trainer and people in his corner of the ring are just random extras. And I feel like if we could have got just a little background, I'm not saying a lot of time, just establish something for us that gives us a bit of reasoning and purpose for why these people are supporting him. That would have been enough for me. And I think it would have helped to build his story just a bit more. And that's, at times in the movie, that's all I was wishing for. I just needed just a bit more with Dame. But for the most part, that's what I got to say about Dame. Going into Bianca, I don't really got much. I felt really invested into their relationship. And I think that's just because Creed 1 and 2 did such a good job of building their relationship together. I just loved watching them on screen together. But the one thing I'll say about Creed as a character is that the character in this movie begins to blend into Michael B. Jordan a bit too much. And at times the character felt lost. I didn't know if I was watching Creed or if I was just watching Michael B. Jordan on screen. And what I'll say about that is that from experience being an actor, director on a feature film, and I was one of the lead stars, at times when I get on set, I'm so focused on directing that sometimes it was hard for me to get into character and to be like, okay, I'm not Takala, the director. I'm now Leo, the action star. Not saying I'm working on these high level budget movies, but that is something that I've had experience with, and it's something that I think Michael B. Jordan at times struggled with, because being a director is a lot of responsibility, and then you got to hop in front of the camera and start acting, and I think sometimes the character Creed and the actor Michael B. Jordan blended a little too much, and I didn't know who I was watching on screen at times. And so at times the identity felt lost. That also goes into the idea that I don't know if I agree with Creed already being like this retired professional boxer that's being like a promoter and bringing together Drago versus Felix and like trying to work with upcoming boxers. I feel like, this is just me personally, I feel like Creed needed one more movie in his prime. I feel like this premise should have been saved for Creed 4. And I feel like Creed 3, one more movie in his prime. I think we needed one more movie of him being a prime boxer. That's just me. I felt like coming in this movie and he was like already retired and just trying to spend time with his family. I feel like that was too early. I feel like that's a Creed 4 movie. Creed 3 needed one more in his prime. And I think they could have still worked Damian Anderson's character into this story if Creed was still in his prime. I think it might have been even a little bit more emotional because Creed is in his prime and he might be a little little more egotistical, and no, he ain't giving nobody no shot at a title ring because I'm the champ. And Dame's like, well, my clock's ticking. I want to be the champ. And that would have really put Dame versus Creed if Creed was still in his prime. That's my theory. Let me know if you agree with it. I wanted one more in his prime. But overall, that just brings me to the identity of the film and talking about the Creed, Michael B. Jordan at getting lost. And I just feel like at times the identity of the film was non-existent. And an example I bring into that is the music. When I think of Creed music, and I mean Rocky music especially, everyone knows Rocky music, but Creed music especially, I think it did a really good job in the first and second movie of building its own identity. When I go back and listen to Creed 2, I can immediately think of Drago's theme. I can immediately think of Creed's theme. I can immediately think of the music and just certain moments. It brings me back to certain moments of the movie. The montages, I'll get to the montages in a minute. The music in Creed 3 felt like it didn't have an identity. And honestly, that comes down to the director. You know, from experience being a director, I hire a composer, and the composer doesn't just go create something. I mean, the composer is the one that creates the music, but the composer needs the director to go off of. You know, what are we looking for? What kind of music are we looking for? Send me some references. What do you want to feel? Where do you want music? Where do you not want music? And then the composer will go off and create, and the director will fine tune it. And I feel like that's something that maybe Michael B. Jordan struggled with, working with his composer. I just feel like the music lacked an identity. The rushing of the story didn't help the identity of the film. It just made the identity of the film feel even more lackluster and non-existent. It feels a bit true Hollywood, as I call Creed. Talking about Hollywood, that gets me into kind of my final aspect of what I think about this movie, and that's the montages. Now, as I said, my first ever short film was a remake of the Creed 2 desert training montage. And so the montages in Creed films, and of course Rocky films, are so iconic. And the montages in this film just did not hit like that. I'm sorry, they just did not. For example, the first montage, when Damian Anderson finally gets to fight Felix for a title shot. Creed promoted this fight, and you got an underdog Dame and Felix, the heavyweight champ. This will bring people together. And as an audience member, I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's see this first fight. This is where you really can establish Damian's underlying tension and his underlying purpose and goal in this fight. You could show he's a little bit more sinister. You could show he's a little bit more of an antagonist. But when we get into this montage, it's just a Showtime montage. And Showtime is like a sports broadcasting, like Showtime, ESPN, Fox News, you know, that kind of thing. It was just guys working out and just getting interviewed. And Damian Anderson is like, you know, when I was a kid, I was the best Golden Gloves boxer ever. And Felix is like, oh, I'm fighting for, you know, whatever. And there was just no emotion in that montage. It just fell flat. The montages fell flat. Watch the Creed 1 montages, Creed 2 montages. I don't even gotta mention the Rocky montages. They'll speak for themselves. But the ones in Creed 3 just did not hit. Now, the final montage where it's Creed training to fight Dame. The first time I watched the movie on Wednesday, I didn't really like it. I was like, man, come on, man. This ain't hitting like Creed 2. Stop. It's not touching Creed 2. But watching it again on Saturday in the IMAX screen, I did like it a lot more. I think the final montage was a solid montage, but again, it wasn't Creed level. It wasn't Rocky level. It wasn't touching Creed 2. It wasn't touching Creed 1. I got a lot more thoughts that I could let out, but I think I'll stop here. For the most part, I'll be honest, my second time watching it, I was like, I didn't really enjoy it. I'd much rather just throw on Creed 2 and just watch Creed 2. But with all that being said, this is Michael B. Jordan's first directing. Moments like that are just gonna come. I know people are gonna be like,
why are you trying to put yourself on the same level with Michael B. Jordan? You ain't built like that. You ain't working on no $1 million movies. You ain't blah, 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 blah.
But inherently making movies, being actor-director, being an actor, being a director, inherently there are similarities regardless of what level movie making you're doing. You're gonna immediately understand. And when I watch this movie, I can kind of immediately understand where Michael B. Jordan struggled with and where he excelled in. I think he had a strong vision, and I think he will be a great director. But that first movie that you direct, the directorial debut, is really getting your feet wet. You learned so much that first time. And I know Michael B. Jordan is looking back on this movie and he's like, I learned so much. I would have did this differently. I would have did that differently. I think that's why a first feature is so important, to kind of start smaller. I would have loved if Michael B. Jordan directed a small little feature film and then he would have walked into Creed 3 ready to go. That's all he needed. I don't think Creed 3 should have been his directorial debut. What I mean by directorial debut is a lot of people get told this is their directorial debut. For example, when I get the chance to make a movie on the big stage, people are going to say, it's my directorial debut because it's like my first studio film. That's a directorial debut. Even though I had been working on so many films for these past years. But for Michael B. Jordan, this is literally his first ever film he's directing. And I don't think that should have been Creed 3. So I think he needed one more. Just a little small indie film to get his feet wet, and he would have been ready to go. And I think Creed 3 would have knocked it out the park. But with this being his first time directing, I think it just missed. I think it missed. You know, when it's all said and done, if I'm ready to watch a Creed movie, I'ma just go throw on Creed 2. There's still a lot of moments I enjoyed, and I think Michael B. Jordan is going to be a great director. But that was my thoughts on Creed 3. Let me know what you think. I'll catch you on the next one. We out.